Now we're joined with Sindy Joyce, who recently graduated in University of Limerick, sociology and...
Just sociology.
That's all, really? Is that it? Okay, well that's it now. No, I'm just joking. A doctor's, right, because it was a PhD, and I was there. It was a brilliant day, a brilliant event. Cindy, you're here again today in the Shamrock Lodge, and you're promoting traveller participation in politics. You're also speaking. Could you give us a few hints what you might be talking about?
Well, I suppose I'm just talking about the role of the Irish government on our lives as a community, on traveller lives. So what role had the government and what role have they in our lives, and how our lives are controlled and ruled by the government?
One of the things about political participation is that when we look at it, we see sort of a different dynamic, because it's very heavy load with particular types of politicians, either the rich, they're either landlords. So when we encourage travellers to vote, we're not telling them to run out and try to get elected. We're telling them to use their vote to influential policies change and so on and so forth. What would you say particularly to traveller women within our community about politics?
I suppose particularly to traveller women, I think like that, not only for traveller women, but I think all travellers over the age of 18 need to register and vote. I suppose like there is a lot of disenfranchisement within the community, and there is a lot of us saying like what difference will it make, and why do we need to vote, because nothing is ever done about our situation that we're living in, like the circumstances that some of our community is living in, are circumstances that we have seen in Ireland, like in the early 1900s, you know, the poverty, the marginalisation, the isolation, the issues that we're facing, the suicide rates, the overcrowding rates in halting sites, issues with waste collection, issues with where the sites are even located.
You will see a lot of this, Cindy, throughout your work, because you've done quite a few theses on various parts of the country, Galway, rural, city, working with young travellers. So obviously you would see the need or the lack of politics. Would that be it? That
would be definitely it, yeah. And I think one of the main things is that the majority of the time that these politicians are standing up and going up for election, a lot of they know that the traveller community, that our community are not going to vote, that they're not going to get votes from us. So they don't care about us, they don't care about our situation that we're in, because they're not going to get our votes. But I suppose for me, my advice would be for my community is to look at the politicians in your area and look at their manifestos, see what they're about, see their track record on different social issues around disadvantaged areas. What have they done in the past? What have they done for different groups of people around that local area? And then decide who you want to vote for. And once these politicians know that they're likely to get traveller votes, and high numbers of traveller votes at that, well then the politicians are going to begin to care, because they're working for you. The politicians work for the voters, they work for registered voters. So when you're not a registered voter, they're not working for you. So you can go up to TDs and politicians and you can ask them what they're doing for you, but they're not doing anything for you, because you haven't voted for any of the political parties or independents. And I suppose what it is, you see, then is once they know that our vote can make a difference, it can actually tip the scale. Like one vote can make a difference in who gets elected. And the thing is, I suppose, is that we have seen it for decades upon decades. These, as you call them, these rich landlords, wealthy people that stand up for elections, and they keep being re-elected and re-elected continuously over again. And I suppose the reason for that is because they're gearing towards a certain element in the community that they know that they can get votes from. And I suppose once they see that we can actually tip those scales, that they're relying on our votes, that if they don't get our votes, well then they won't be seated in these positions. And once we break that cycle of disrupting the same politicians and continuously going in, the ones that we see that are anti-traveller, that are anti-traveller accommodation, culturally appropriate accommodation, standing up going against it, even I suppose a lot of politicians that have anti-traveller rhetoric coming out of them in order to gain votes. So they're looking at the element of the community, they're looking at the group of the community in their local area that would be, I suppose, against halting sites in their area, that would be against travellers going into their area and so forth. And they make promises then that they're going to stop traveller accommodation, for example, coming into that area if they get their vote. But I suppose if travellers start voting, well, then they're going to have to start making promises to the community then, in order to get the votes that they'll be in then, and then we can... like, things won't change overnight, but slowly things will change.
Quite clearly, apart from you being quite naturally intelligent anyway, I imagine you were born intelligent. And
Bernard gives a compliment.
well, believe it or not, I've come to find out lately that the vast majority are actually they're born intelligent. A different kind of education, intelligence. But with all that, you have got the passion, you got the dedication, you got determination, you got the whole lot. Will you, or are you considering in running in political life?
I wouldn't say no in the future, but I'm not for the upcoming elections. I'm not running. Yeah.
Sindy Joyce, thank you very much for joining me, and no doubt we'll have you on multitude of different platforms for different reasons. Keep up the good work, and we're all very proud of you.
Thank you very much.
So 19 years later, so what do? In another 20 years, we give the same recommendations over again? For what? It's a repeat cycle after cycle after cycle after strategy after policy. And there's nobody listening to us. And I suppose one of the biggest reasons that nobody is listening to us is because it's so normalised how we're treated that we just tend to accept it as a community. We tend to just say, yeah, sure, that's the way it is, that's the way it always has been, that's the way it is. And what can we do? And we tend to sit back. But sitting back complaining about it in the last 100 years, it has done us no good. And we haven't been a passive community being quiet about our situation. A lot of people think that we have been passive and sat back and said nothing and allowed this to happen. We have always been an active community. We've always been active in protesting, particularly, I suppose, from the late 70s into the 80s and the 90s. We have protested against the issues and the accommodation issues and the health issues and so forth. But we seem to get nowhere with it. We seem like that we're still stuck in 1922 when the foundation of the state was built.